rooted in the real lives of real people, and it's the kind of experience Washington needs right now. Now, there are others in this race who say that this kind of change sounds good, but that I'm not angry or confrontational enough to get it done. Well, let me tell you something, Iowa. I don't need any lectures on how to bring about change, because I haven't just talked about it on the campaign trail. I fought for change all my life. I walked away from a job on Wall Street to bring job training to the jobless and after-school programs to kids on the streets of Chicago. I turned down the big money law firms to win justice for the powerless as a civil rights lawyer. I took on the lobbyists in Illinois and brought Democrats and Republicans together to expand health care to 150,000 people, and passed the first major campaign finance reform in 25 years. And I did the same thing in Washington when we passed the toughest lobbying reform since Watergate. I am the only candidate in this race who hasn't just talked about taking away power from lobbyists. I've actually done it. What kind of choices we'll make as president, you should take a look at the choices we made when we had the chance to bring about change that wasn't easy and wasn't convenient. That's the kind of change that's more than just rhetoric. That's change you can believe in. It's change that won't just come from more anger at Washington or turning up the heat on Republicans. There's no shortage of anger and bluster and bitter partisanship out there. We don't need more heat. We need more light. I've learned in my life that you can stand firm on your principles while still reaching out to those who might not always agree with you. And although the Republican operatives in Washington might not be interested in hearing what we have to say, I think Republicans and independent voters outside of Washington are. That's the once-in-a-generation opportunity we have in this election. For the first time in a long time, we have the chance to build a new majority of not just Democrats, but independents and Republicans who've lost faith in their Washington leaders but want to believe again, who desperately want something new. We can change the electoral math that's been all about division and make it about addition, about building a coalition for change and progress that stretches through blue states and red states. That's how I won some of the reddest, most Republican counties in Illinois. That's why the polls show that I do best against the Republicans running for president. Because they're flashing the most support.
It's pitch thing. That's the only reason. Yeah.
Love you, Mama!
Love you back. In the end, the argument that's going on between the candidates in the last 7 days isn't just about the meaning of change, it's about the meaning of hope. Some of my opponents appear scornful of the word. They think it speaks of naivete, passivity, and wishful thinking. But that's not what hope is. Hope is not blind optimism. It's not ignoring the enormity of the task before us or the roadblocks that stand in our path. Yes, the lobbyists will fight us. Of course, the Republican attack dogs will go after us in the general election. Yes, the problems of poverty and climate change and failing schools will resist easy repair. I know. I've been on the streets. I've been in the courts. I've watched legislation die because the powerful held sway and good intentions weren't fortified by political will. I've watched the nation get misled into war because no one had the judgment or the courage to ask the hard questions before we send in our troops to fight. I know this will be hard. I know it. But I also know this. I know that hope has been the guiding force behind the most improbable changes this country has ever made. That in the face of tyranny, it's what led a band of colonists to rise up against an empire. In the face of slavery, it's what fueled the resistance of the slave and the abolitionists, and what allowed the president to chart a treacherous course to ensure that the nation would not continue half slave and half free. And oppression, it's what led the greatest of generations to free a continent and heal a nation. In the face of oppression, it's what led young men and women to sit at lunch counters and brave fire hoses and march through the streets of Selma and the families of freedom strong. That's the power of hope, to imagine and then work for what had seemed impossible before. That's the change we see. That's the change you can stand for in 7 days. We've already beaten the odds that the cynics said couldn't be beaten. When we started 10 months ago, they said we couldn't run a different kind of campaign. They said we couldn't compete without taking money from Washington lobbyists, but you proved them wrong when we raised more small donations for more Americans than any other campaign.